This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Body Count, the podcast where we believe history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, and a proud member of the MSE Podcast Network. Our only rule when we choose a topic, someone, or as is usually the case, a lot of someone's died. We give you the series of events in a narrative fashion and by the end correlate said story with current events. I'm not PBS, Ken Burns, or Dan Carlin. If you want a Hoover-esque Just the Facts Ma'am history podcast, we are not going to be for you. I'm telling you this now. There will be analysis and opinions. I'm not reading names and dates at you, so if you don't love the idea, get out. Just get out.
Bye.
Bye. My opinions are my own. Know that I do hold my co-hosts verbally hostage. Direct your hate at me, folks, where it belongs. I'm your host, Jessica Manor, and I'm joined today by my co-hostess.
Hooty hoo! It's Bethany Skelton. Boom, boom.
You sound like a 90s or 2000 like hype man. What was that guy's name? Like Lil Wayne, or what was his name?
I don't know, but it's not Lil Wayne. Hooty hoo! Isn't it Outkast or Ice-T or?
No, we're not going that far back. And I see that. Gather around, children. Listen to your weird aunts tell you about this fabled time of the 90s and the 2000s.
Oh my God. Okay, so that totally reminds me. There's this woman that does I think she does videos to promote like people's palettes or something like that. And she's freaking hilarious. Okay. But she put one out that was like what makeup tutorials would look like back in the 90s. And it was like a bunch of harsh lines. And she was like, make sure you don't blend. Okay. Cause it's all about the harsh lines and like really vibrant colors on your eyes for eyeshadows. And then body glitter, just body glitter everywhere. She even did the zigzag part, okay? But body glitter on your cheeks, body glitter on your arms. It's just...
Oh my God. Like the other day, you sent me photos from your timeline on Facebook, like early college, and I cracked up because I am literally in one shot getting the glitter to paste on over like hairspray or glue. That's how glittery we were. And so the next shot, it's a picture of us, and I am just like covered head to toe in glitter. And we're going out dancing. I went as the effing disco ball itself.
Well, it was a red light, yellow light, green light party, I think.
Green light party.
And you went as yellow.
I can't imagine that I was in any kind of confusing relationship status. What color did you go as?
I was red, and I think Nikki was green. So when we stood together, we were like, we're a stoplight.
See, I think that was what our goal was. I don't think that we were following the spirit of what that party was at all.
I think red light, green light party. We
I think
totally
we just wanted to stand like a totem pole and take a picture so that we looked like an actual stoplight. We completely misunderstood that. It's kind of like Roy G. Biv parties. Like when we would roll up, we weren't dressed completely in one color. We were wrapped in the rainbow flag.
In a toga, which I love the toga parties. Those were so much fun.
Had a hole in the top like a serape. Like we were going, and to be fair,
draped it over.
There's no telling who we would have taken home that night. So it's probably a fair guess. I mean, we were dressed appropriately. All colors of that flag, sister. Oh, yay. Wonderful.
Glad that out.
Memories. Oh, let's just bypass all of that. And oh my God. So And we've got an F-bomb early in this. I love it. Wonderful. We've got so much to get to today, but first, housekeeping, guys.
Housekeeping?
Housekeeping.
I don't care. Anytime you say that, it's just gonna remind me of Family Guy. You love your pillow?
No.
Can you sleep with your wife?
Now, we are part of, that may not have been the best intro for
Sorry.
We don't do this at the network. We are part of the MSE Podcast Network, which is an absolutely wonderful collection of podcasts. We're super excited about it. Please go check them out. Check out all our brother and sister podcasts on social media, MSE Podcast Network, and also MichiganSportsAndEntertainment.com. If you love the show, .com. God, we are just showing our age today. We need to stop it. We need to stop.
I'm just going to sit here and drink my beer. Carry on. Carry on my wayward son.
Oh, if you love the show, please go and give us those 5 stars on iTunes or wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Quite frankly, you can say whatever the hell you want. It's not for our ego, but it does help us out on the business end. We would really, really appreciate it. Also, go check us out on Patreon, guys. We watch and kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000 style our way through historical dramas for only $1 a month. And I promise at no point do I talk about history. We just are jackasses the entire time.
$1 a month.
$1. My promise to you. I do not talk about history at any given point. We're just purely making fools of ourselves.
Which is an everyday thing. We just happen to record it.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. It's just recorded. We'd have this conversation we're about to have anyway. We just do it now because, I'm like, oh, Bethany, do you know about Let Me Horrify You? This is our everyday conversation. This is nothing different than what we normally do. We just record it.
Yes.
Ugh. So, what have you watched recently?
Well, I can name, of course, the Game of Thrones. Okay. And then, I have bit. You
can't help it.
Nope. And then I have started True Blood. So thank you for getting me on that.
Wonderful.
But, the most recently though, I did decide to rewatch the movie The Wolf on Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Of Wall Street, whatever. And I just have to say this. It's about, and I'm going to save you 4 hours of your time. It's fucking long. Okay. It's about 10% Wall Street, which I quite frankly don't completely understand, but I know that you do. So but the 90 other percent, which makes the movie kind of funny and made me weirdly reminisce uncomfortably, is basically watching our college days on screen. So it was oh, cool. I just watched the movie.
If only we could figure out how to make millions of dollars off of that.
Why didn't we tap in that 10% of what that movie's about? We could have literally made out. Well, I don't know if we would have made out well, at least.
Because we took it too far. They were having fun. We made it a lifestyle choice, Yeah, no, it was a lifestyle choice.
I do want to take a moment that to my mother who happens to tune in and listen to this.
Let's not bring your freaking mother into this.
I'm sorry. I just want to apologize. I know that she's going to listen, and I'm just going to say, sorry.
It was all her fault.
Oh, hell no. Don't try to start pointing fingers, because I can bring out a story.
I was basically a Mormon missionary
Shut up! Shut the hell up! You took your chastity belt off a long time ago.
Oh, well, it's funny that you recently rewatched that movie because
love
Bethany,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what we're talking about today?
I think
Vaguely.
it's vaguely
Vaguely.
something
Well,
about a bombing. I know there's a bombing.
yes. Today we are
Ba-bam!
discussing, ba-boom, we're discussing
Ba-boom.
the 1920 Wall Street
Oh
bombing.
shit!
Oh,
shit!
shit. You ready for the body count?
Oh, we get it early.
We
Oh
get
my
it
God.
early this episode. I wanted to ram it
Slap
right in
down
there.
some dead people.
Yeah, that's exactly. I wanted to put all my cards on the table first thing.
Wha-pa!
Body count.
So smack it on me. Smack it on me.
you.
Mhm.
38, but 143 seriously injured, with the total of number of injuries well into the hundreds. So just what in the hell happened here?
Yeah, why bomb in the Wall Street? I'm curious. So
Which I sound more and more like my mother every day. What in the hell happened? What in the hell happened in here?
what the hell is going on in
What
here?
the hell is going on? I don't know why, but just quick sidetrack. At one point today, when I was speaking to people, and I still have an accent, 110% accent, but I do curb it a little bit. But today, for some reason, when I was talking to people, no, I was going real Texas with it. I don't even know why. And I don't know what happened. It was like I couldn't stop. Once it
You
was,
slid right on in, and then you just rode it to the sunset.
I sounded like freaking the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I don't know what happened. I just went straight into it, and I wasn't coming back out. I went pure Southern Mama today. I don't know. I think it was I was around so many Georgia accents that I just felt
that you were like
as a native
compelled.
Texan that I was in, like I was being
It was your
assaulted.
duty. It was your
It was
duty.
my duty to put those twangy A's and those long drawn out I's because I'm gonna fight you, okay? Like I don't know what happened, but it was a massive transformation for a minute. It wasn't even within my normal scope of any accent I have ever had in my entire life. I don't know what happened. It was only for about 2 hours, but it happened. So as I'm walking my kid into I almost called it the Republics, into Publix, sit her in the basket. I'm like, you better knock that off or I tell you what. I don't know what happened. I don't know, but it was just like a brief 2 hour period.
Your kid was probably like, Mommy, why are you talking like that?
She was just looking at me like, you are a different thing. So, ugh. Back to our current 1920 Wall Street bombing. It was super weird, though. I mean, I don't even want to talk about it. So, our source today is The Day Wall Street Exploded by Beverly Gage. Please go out and buy it, guys. Get your hands on it if you want a serious deep dive into the bombing and the events that led us there. So, it's DeLorean time, Bethany.
Ooh, yeah, let's get up to 88 miles per hour.
Ooh, we're going back in time.
Back in time.
Back it up.
Back it up.
So, as is usually the case, before we get to our actual event, because this is a history podcast, we're going to put it into context for you. So, following World War I, there was, as there always has been, a real battle over just how far the federal government should take it when attempting to protect the nation from political violence. Terrorism isn't something new and frightening from the 21st century, guys. If what we talk about today doesn't demonstrate that, you're just not paying attention at all. Sorry. Also addressed will be questions like, how pervasive government surveillance should be, and just what the government is willing to justify in the name of national security. And today's events take place in 1920, for crying out loud.
Oh
So
my
this is
God.
still, something that we're very much arguing over today.
Yeah, and it's well past the time, and we all know that the government is secretly watching us, okay? It's literally like, I have my computer open. They're probably watching us right now through my camera.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? With this podcast, we're on I'm already on a number of lists all on my own. Just for the Google searches I do for this podcast, more like the podcast itself. But the truth is, there is a reason they do those things. And it's going to be our key question that we ask ourselves at the end, because there are viable threats to national security. And that's why those are important questions. So let's go back about a year or so before our events and kind of set the stage. Boatloads
Ooh.
of soldiers. Soldiers got high and tie butts that you can sit cups on. We love the troops. We love the troops.
We love the men in uniform.
Yeah, we do. So, buttloads of soldiers and sailors and war's over makers are headed home.
Yes!
So, soldiers returning home, they're feeling pretty optimistic about economic opportunities at home. Stock prices soared during the war, and for the first time, the United States was a creditor nation, meaning Europe now owed us more money than we owed them.
What? That's a real thing? Wait, this is a real thing.
Yeah, it's very much a real thing.
Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Who owns large and vast portions of whose treasury and who gets away with what? Yeah, no, it's a very real thing. So, chief beneficiaries of the war, however, were mostly financial centers, which led to a lot of talk about a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. Which, no surprise there. That's just the way it's been for all of human history, which is a different bag of history dicks, and we are not addressing that today.
Yeah. No. Let's let that, you know what? That could be another episode.
Oh, it could be 20.
That could be another, I was going to say, maybe not just a episode, but
it will be 20 or 30 by the time that we're like,
and then we will be a Dan Carlin podcast.
And then we will be a Dan Carlin podcast, and that is not what I'm trying to be here. So, naturally, if America has some ruffled feathers over wealth distribution, that's nothing to what the feeling of unrest caused by the Sedition Act and the Espionage Act we're creating.
Okay, you're going to have to give me a brief, what is that?
Okay, so not long after we jumped into the First World War, that reliable old pain in the ass Woodrow Wilson had signed both the sedition and espionage laws, like the dick that he was. Basically, it made speaking out against the war or the government a federal crime during wartime.
Oh, so people couldn't be more love, not war, or you know what I mean? Love, not fight, or what? Is that what that means? Or you couldn't.
You could not speak against the federal government, and you could not speak against the war. So you couldn't say, I disagree with the war. War is bad. You couldn't pick it out in the street. Your ass was going to jail.
Oh,
for
shit.
Indefinite time until the United States government saw fit to release you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so as bad as things may be now, folks, they've still gotten better on a grander scale.
That is true.
Thinking, I mean,
we've got a ways to go, but
all
still
calm the hell down and stop backing each other into corners. It could be worse. So, all that unregulated free speech sent thousands of people to jail. Already, we see a vast majority of the American population essentially being trained to just be afraid of anything that's the least bit different, from an idea to a foreign person. So, I mean, it's just basically business as usual. I mean, that's nothing new to us. And just when the threat and the fear of Germany had abated, here comes Lenin and the Bolsheviks. Which perfect timing. I've already rolled my eyes so much that they hurt. They may just roll out by the end of this. We'll see.
It's funny because like last week our fingers were like going to be permanent air quotes, and now this week I'm pretty sure our eyes will be permanently facing upward in a mid roll. Like,
they hurt so bad as I was writing this, because we're working on a very long multi-part series right now. So I'm not gonna lie, threw this one together for us this morning, guys, and as I was clickety-clacking away, I'm just like rolling my eyes. I had to rub them so many times because they literally hurt from the amount of eye rolling that I will do during this. So, we all know that the Bolsheviks had seized power, formed a new state, a communist state, which got some U.S. panties all in a twist, because it was basically an anti-capitalist revolution, especially when similar uprisings began occurring all over the map, and all after Lenin was like, yeah, all the workers of the world, like, hang your ass out there and rise up against your governments. Thanks. # bad at diplomacy. But not that the U.S. can really throw that particular stone as well.
And you know, no one really likes wedgies, so I don't think anybody's going to put their ass
in a twist.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to throw their ass out there for everybody to see. No, you're wrong.
No.
You're wrong. Lenin would. So, February 5th, 1919, the first ever general labor strike in the United States slammed Seattle. So, there is full-blown panic attack.
Of course.
Again.
Surprise, surprise. Iowa.
So, wage hikes for higher costs of living was the catalyst. Again, nothing that doesn't sound effing familiar to us. Once again, and I'm sorry, we're trying very hard not to use an F word as a promise to our mothers that we would stop cursing like the sailors formerly discussed during our podcast. So once again, we are confronted on this show with the idea of the more shit changes, the more it stays the same.
Oh, God.
But then again, I don't blame these guys. The way they saw it, they had sacrificed quite enough for the war effort. First and foremost, their wages. It was their time. It was their time down here, like Goonies style.
It is our time. It's our time.
Exactly. So the city basically shuts down in the strike. And this scared the shit out of the establishment. More so when it was discovered that Russian pamphlets had been heavily circulated in the city pre-strike.
Bum, bum, bum.
Brr, brr, brr. Then striking began to spread through the nation like wildfire, and the fear merely heightened and the tensions grew. The establishment couldn't wrap their head around people doing this all by themselves for their own reasons. Fear really ramped up as to if there were foreign agents involved. Congress opened hearings on the, quote, communist threat. Don't worry, Bethany. Your fingers are going to get a workout too.
I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly. So they tossed around banning immigration and revolutionary talk times, twiddling their thumbs to kind of see if the Justice Department would have any of it.
I wonder if anybody's going to do their job today.
Yeah.
Who's going to do the work?
Who's gonna be the bully in this case?
I don't want to step up. It's a communist threat.
So all eyes are now on Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. And shockingly enough, the gentleman was fairly progressive for the time. During his time in Congress, he had introduced legislation to give women the right to vote.
Oh, how wonderful.
I mean, this guy, can you believe the fucking nerve of this guy, Bethany? Women voting.
Oh my God.
Disgusting.
How
We don't
dare
like it. We
him?
don't like a vagina.
It's the 1920s. Women, no.
Those monkeys can't think for themselves.
They're just
gonna
out there to
ruin
make
everything.
babies.
They're there to make babies. Chain them to the stove. The nerve of this asshole. But before this time, he had also worked to moderate the political climate, freeing people who were jailed under the Espionage and Sedition Acts, disbanding a vigilante league that had overseen weeding out slackers and, quote, spies during wartime. All in all, I mean, he's a pretty even-tempered dude for the time.
I mean, it sounds like he's at least stepping up to the plate, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, he really was all about like, dudes, let's chill out, all right? This shit is just absolutely crazy and anti-American, but whatever.
Yeah.
Which takes us to April 1919. The mayor of Seattle gets a cleverly designed mail bomb. Lucky for him, it didn't detonate. Same time, an identical bomb blows the hands off some U.S. senator's poor maid. Can I remind everyone, it's never the intended target that opens this shit. People who view themselves as important or are viewed as important seldom open their own mail. These people always end up hurting some poor working class schlub like you and me. Just food for thought out there, potential terrorists.
Speaking of food for thought, probably because of the fact that they even have people that eat their food or test their food first.
Exactly.
Make sure it's not poison. So
poison them. Open my mail. You get blown up. Exactly. It's never the intended target. So over the next few days, investigators discovered 28 more bombs in the mail. Can we just say Kaczynski doesn't seem all that clever now, like, does he? He got caught at very least. So targets included some congressmen, cabinet members, Supreme Court justices, and even J.P. Morgan Jr., prominent capitalists all that were basically, and people that had gone against various radical groups pretty hard. One was even addressed to Attorney General Palmer, but again, he was pretty cool about it. He treated it as a normal criminal investigation.
Was he like smoking a fat doobie all the time, or damn, like,
right? Like,
stressed about that?
Well, let's face it, it's 1919. Like, everything had cocaine in it. So you would think he'd be pretty ramped up about it like everybody else was. But no.
I guess not.
He must have gotten to the cannabinoids first, like, or maybe he was just taking laudanum over the counter versus
something.
Like, drinking a whole lot of that sweet Coca-Cola. So these were called the Mayday bombings, as each of the bombs was set to arrive on what would have been like, I don't know, International Worker Solidarity Day or some shit. Now, the majority of the country is becoming convinced, with the help of the media, of course, that radical groups were now, I don't know, in charge of the post office, gonna eat their fucking babies. Oh shit, the F word.
Oh my God. Ew, eating babies.
Right. So panic starts about red terrorists, and we know what that looks like, right, America? Just substitute red with, oh wait, come on now. I'm not gonna do that to myself, guys. Anywho, so the people like effing freak out and start attacking anyone who believes differently from the majority of those in power. Again, America. None of this is new, so we'll move on.
Sorry.
So Attorney General Palmer is taking heat for being, quote, weak, because he isn't freaking the F out. There are some movers and shakers though, on the anti-capitalist side that are out there debating, I mean, in all seriousness, if economic disparity was best cured by votes or violence, which is really quickly, which is why celebrities
Vote or
that
die.
pretend to speak out, no, not vote or die so much as the anarchists, communists, other radical groups are basically kind of trying to decide, do we continue to do these peaceful movements and try to gain headway through votes? Or do we just turn to violence? Do we just go full scale uprising? You know,
Gotcha.
votes versus violence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which brings me to when celebrities pretend to speak out for us normals, it like completely cracks me up. Because if they think that's going to stop any of the 99%, let's say that uprising does happen, guillotining them in the streets like at 1789 France, if it ever like goes down, quote, and looting the hell out of their mansions, they've lost their minds. You can say all you want, but you're headed down the same bourgeois hole as corporate dudes and politicians. That's how revolution works. That's why it's so very dangerous, those kind of things. No one gives a shit about Beyonce when the new state is dividing her shit equally, guys. Like, when you have your half of that kid's diamond encrusted Barbie, you're not going to either. Sorry. And if you say otherwise, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. Just FYI.
I'm not lying. Shit, I'd love to have just a smidge of Beyonce's.
Yeah, I mean that's why that's very, very dangerous. But that's why I mean, like, that votes or violence idea is very, very dangerous, and it doesn't matter how much because it does. It goes 1789 France when you're looking at things like that. It goes full Bolshevik revolution. So it's a very dangerous idea and a very dangerous time that we're toying with.
Yeah.
So Luigi Galliani is
Galliani.
Luigi Galliani was one of the pro-violence revolutionists versus like a hearts and minds kind of dude, right?
Okay.
He has thousands of followers. They're all immigrant laborers. He was a well-spoken mother. He wrote books and had a newspaper. And ironically enough, including in these was a manual on how to correctly use dynamite. So that's a blast.
That's like a dad joke.
It was a dad joke. It was 110% a dad joke because we're old, Bethany. Get used to it.
I'm TNT. Dynamite.
So this guy's always having a go at the state and private property owners, advocating the overthrow of the government. Let us say the Bureau of Investigations monitored all his paper subscribers. They raided Galliani's home, deported him, but not before he urged his followers to rise up against the U.S. government. Following this, something happens to turn Attorney General Palmer from a moderate man to a bit of a reactionary. And it's pretty understandable.
Okay.
A bomb explodes on the Attorney General's doorstep.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Now, the bomb went off prematurely when the bomber was attempting to deliver the package.
Sorry.
It's kind of funny.
Sorry.
It is funny. I mean, until I get to the next part, because it was a huge explosion.
You said that it on his doorstep. But wait, did you just say that it was?
Yeah, the bomber
somebody still had it.
No, yeah, the bomber, like whoever was supposed to deliver the bomb, it went off prematurely while he was still holding it on the Attorney General's doorstep.
Oh, shit. So this is almost like a suicide bomber with not meaning to.
Yeah, exactly. Huge explosion, blood, guts, limbs, everywhere. Yeah, disgusting. Lucky for Palmer, he and his wife had gone upstairs moments before, or they would have been like toast. Or maybe it was like gazpacho. Because it seems more of a soupy mess versus a charred one.
I was just gonna say, I don't think he's crisped like toast. He would be literally like pea soup or something.
Well, I chose gazpacho too because the red. Like, we are
Oh,
sick
yeah.
human beings, Bethany.
I know.
I'm not like, we aren't experts, but even for us, that was a tasteless joke.
Sorry.
It was funny though. But that's not, we apologize. Sorry. So there were bombings
Not
that
sorry.
day in sorry, we're not sorry. There were bombings that day in 6 other cities at the homes of judges and legislators. Whereas
Wow.
Mayday bombings could have been the work of one individual, sending it through the post office.
Right.
There was no way that all of these detonated simultaneously in different cities was the work of just one person. So we're talking proper conspiracy here.
Yeah, like I mean, it's like they all got together in a secret Facebook message and was like, okay, this time
Facebook message.
at
The
this
fact that
this
you
time-
think Facebook messages are secret is adorable.
I mean, I
We'll
know
talk
we're talking
about in a
1919,
minute why
but,
they're not secret, and it's the events that we're talking about right now.
I'm just saying, it's like they all got together in the basement of, Palmer's and
There
got
you
together
go.
and was like,
That's closer.
Okay.
But no, exactly. And that was like a real cause of panic because think about that. Now we've got a full-blown conspiracy. We definitely have more than one crazed person out there. So
Yeah.
panic really starts to whip up again. And it's not hard for us to imagine in the current political climate, guys. So in the mess outside of God,
Oh.
we're making so many tasteless jokes. I didn't even mean to say it that way. So,
In
outside
the mess. Outside Palmer's home. God.
I know, I didn't mean to
Why
say
didn't you
it that
say
way.
disaster? Why didn't you say in the horrific tragedy that was outside?
Because that is how I bulletin the notes, okay? I don't know what I was thinking. It's completely inappropriate. But I'm going to say it again. So, in the mess outside Palmer's home, they find a flyer that, like, promising shit is definitely going to get worse.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying that Palmer comes downstairs to his house, basically ruined, goes outside, blood and guts, and there's just
Yeah, he pulls a flyer
There's a
out
flyer
of the
that's
large intestines, Bethany.
Oh,
What do you
God. That's
Do
just
you
like,
want me to like spell it? I don't know
It's
what to
gonna
tell
get a
you.
lot worse,
it was
bitch.
like full. It's gonna get a lot
God.
worse than this, bitch.
awesome. Okay,
Pretty
continue.
much. So in this note or flyer, there's a lot of like, class war and murder and bears. Oh my, like it's full of a lot of stuff. So this finally scares Palmer into getting on a bit of a radical train himself. And remember,
Okay.
would-be terrorists.
I get it now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, now I
would-be
get it why,
terrorists, I'm not giving terrorists advice. I'm just trying to remind everybody that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Oh shit, that's be like, that's just a little bit of physics for you.
Yeah, Newtonian physics.
What's it? Newton's cookie is not named after. Or wait, Newton's. Fuck.
Oh, Fig Newtons, they're not named after the scientist.
Yes, thank you. I was trying.
Yeah, I
was
knew
on the
what
struggle bus there.
I
Okay.
met you halfway. I knew what joke you were going
Okay.
for.
Sorry.
I knew. No, I mean, but if you think about that, like for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If you want to be a violent revolutionary, know that your answer from the might and power of the U.S. government will be just as violently revolutionary.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge. So Palmer was now a scared man. So I kind of think of it like this. It's like a bar fight. Who's the one person you don't want to jump on? The guy that's scared to death. Like, take on the guy that's confident, drunk, whatever, but never the guy that's terrified, and they terrified him because they think they're fighting for their life. And shit's always going to get crazy as a result. And it very much does.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's just kind of like the fight or flight. Like, if you're like some big ass dude and you're drunk, you're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. All you need is one good punch. That's all you need.
Well, and I mean, like, scared people, think about scared animals. What do? They bite. Like,
and they scratch and they literally try to survive. I mean, that's our human nature.
I want to go forth, and I want to say I don't think Palmer was a bad man. I think that going into this, he was now a scared man. And that makes all of the difference in the world.
Of course.
So, I don't know. I just don't know what to think about it because I really don't. I don't think he's a bad guy at all. I think he just didn't know what to do and he was scared. Really quickly, Bethany, do you know what I love?
What do you love? What do you love? Tell me what you love.
Tell me what you love. What you really, really love. Other than body count, of course.
Well, of course.
Like all of our listeners, getting paid to listen to podcasts because we listen.
Bills, y'all.
Exactly. We listen to a lot of podcasts, though. You and I both do. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's not crazy. That's why we're insanely into the new free app called PodCoin. It literally pays you to listen to podcasts. So here's the rundown, how this all works. You listen to podcasts and you earn PodCoin while you listen. You turn that PodCoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a good person, you can even donate that PodCoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. It's a lot like credit card points, but no interest or debt. So it's just for fun. Yay. And where do you find it, right? Like, you can download the free app right now on iPhone or Android. And we have a special code for you guys. Simply use our code BODYCOUNT and you'll get 300 PodCoin just for signing up. You're already listening, so go get your Starbucks or your Amazon free on us, guys, while rolling your eyes at history. Of course. So go ahead, go listen to this podcast or pretty much any podcast on PodCoin and sign up with the code BODYCOUNT. Woohoo! We promise it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. Now,
it'll change your life.
Back to the regularly scheduled programming. So, Galliano's followers.
Galliano.
Oh no, Bethany. It is the end of the world. I have mispronounced something.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Galliani's followers were, of course, suspected, as Palmer had been the one to kind of chuck him out, right? But Palmer, now terrified and threatened, didn't limit his scope to just finding the bombers this time. He used these June attacks as a jumping off point for a much broader investigation into any and all radical or revolutionary groups. He starts saying the next attack could come at any old time and asks Congress for emergency funds to investigate and deport any foreign influences he felt threatened the government. That's right. He's down to just deport everyone if he can. Preemptive strike time. If none of this sounds familiar to you, then where have you been for the last 2 centuries? Palmer, like, I just can't even. I can't speak to you. If none of this sounds familiar, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast. So Palmer then creates a domestic intelligence unit. the beginning of all of our nightmares, like 1984 style, to track and monitor at all times any potential threats. Does this sound familiar? And we're not going to get into a legal argument with this. Use your imaginations as to what I'm saying right now as I'm screaming internally. And he called it the radical division, which, Bethany, you might have workshopped a better name. I'm just saying. I'm a bit disappointed. Usually the government is like really good at naming shit like this.
I mean, they could have been like even the books, the Divergent series, like what was it, the factions of what were the factions? Eurodite.
Well, I'm not going to go into that. I was just thinking things like, I don't know,
The
Project
Dauntless.
MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip. Let's talk about
Operation Paperclip. What the hell?
Oh, you don't know about that? Oh my God, we're doing Operation Paperclip though.
No, I have no idea, but it
That
sounds
is
freaking
when
hilarious.
we actually went over and brought back prominent Nazi scientists and integrated them into our own government to work for us. Werner von Braun, the father of NASA, was actually the creator of the V2 rocket and a Nazi himself. All they did on his file, literally, it said prominent Nazi. All they did is write in front of it, not prominent Nazi. But they called it Project Paperclip because they used to paperclip their new identities onto their actual files.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, basically all of like everybody from Himmler to Mengele's monkeys were brought over here to create everything from the microwave oven to the rockets that took us to the moon, and that is no lie.
Awesome.
That really happened in history. Fun. We'll do that one sometime, I promise.
Cool. Awesome.
This is the first official time that the U.S. government came forth and said, yeah, it's peacetime, but we're going to track anybody that doesn't fit into our little box and put them under constant surveillance. Probable cause can just, fuck off. Who's going to run this thing? Why, who else but a tenacious and borderline scary little Justice Department lawyer by the name of J. Edgar Hoover. And man, was he good at organizing. Speaking of Nazis, they would be jealous. J. Edna had read everything there was to know about the communists, and he was convinced they were the biggest threat to the U.S. out there. For now, Freddie foreshadowing the 30s and 40s there. So, Hoover worked at the Library of Congress during law school and became the master of its very complex cataloging system, making for an easy transition to his first political job, identifying and cataloging information about politically suspect foreigners during, the First World War. Mm-hmm. And he combined both experiences to compile the first U.S. peacetime political surveillance system. What fun! Yay! He used He used military intelligence.
I roll.
Gosh damn it! Sorry. They're gonna fall out of my head. That's the problem. So this guy uses military intelligence, postmasters, and even private detectives to put together all of his information. Hoover monitored all publications deemed to be radical and pumped labor unions full of informants. J. Edna established a system in which he could track literally every identified radical in the entire country, which this was before computers, so right or wrong, I mean, it's pretty impressive either way.
I mean, when people are like, what did we do before computers? Oh, we sent spies. We had spies everywhere.
Exactly.
Your best friend was not your best friend. Sorry.
Yeah. We were just spy masters. That's all it was. Exactly. He knew where these people lived, everyone they spoke to. He probably had freaking stool samples. This was, like you said, old school spying. If you were even in the orbit of a proper revolutionary thinker or anarchist or said anything, everyone, ever, like once against the Justice Department, boom, you were on this list.
Oh shit, we would be on a really, like, our name would be on repeat on their list.
Oh my God, Bethany. Like, I'm barely off a no-fly list as it is. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'd be so screwed. So, Communist Party started forming in the U.S. Workers were walking off jobs to strike for better wages and better working conditions, and the American people started freaking the F out as if as we are wont to do, quite frankly, before finding any direct links between occurrences. Let that hang out there a minute. Think about that one.
Yeah.
The usual. It was not within the majority or the establishment's comprehension that the, quote, workers, and get ready for some class, like real classist shit here, could have, on their own accord, all gotten together in their free time and said, enough is enough. We have value. America thought there has to be some communist plot or some foreign undermining. I mean, these animals can't just want to be treated like human beings. It's inconceivable. Unthinkable. It's unthinkable. My eyes, like, rolling hurt again.
Why would they want to be treated like human beings?
Why would they want to be treated like people? It's so gross. They're so gross. So both the establishments and the radicals are doing everything in both of their powers to stir people up one way or the other. Again, if this does not sound like same old shit, different day to you, please read. Please read. Letters are flooding lawmakers, and they put pressure on Palmer to do something to stop radical and revolutionary meetings in the U.S. And so it begins, as always. It can't just be us. We're rich. Right? Like, it can't just be because of us and us being dicks. No, never.
We're rich.
We're rich. We're awesome. So, November 7th, 1919, Palmer finally gives in. If, like, just to shut everyone up.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to, make people quiet about it.
Exactly. So he launches a series of raids to publicly, quote, fight back against the communist influence on the second anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. Hoover was the point man, and federal agents, with the help of local law enforcement, arrested several hundred members of the Union of Russian Workers, one of Hoover's most monitored groups. And it wasn't nice. And it was meant to be a big show. 249 of the detainees were shipped back to Russia, including two of the nation's most influential anarchists, for a big old media show.
Mm-hmm.
Which, good thing that was the headline, as most of the detainees had never actually been a part of any criminal or terrorist plots.
Oh, shit.
Again, familiar. Two people ruined it for everyone, and the government overreacted.
Oh, God.
If that doesn't sound familiar, people ruining it, government overreacts, innocent people caught between, surprise, surprise. But this was a hell of a publicity stunt. And
say that 3 times fast.
I can't.
Publicity. Bethany,
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not in a state of mind to say anything 3 times fast.
I almost did it. Okay, sorry.
I can't say my own name 3 times fast right now. I can promise you that. So, sending the Russians back, where they, quote, belong. Yeah. The government saw it as, we handled the problem. We won't hear from these groups again. Wrong.
Oh my
Wrong. Because now they've built a soapbox to be angry on.
Like, if you didn't want to hear from them again, you should have just killed them all.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
you know,
Or if you
just
don't
like-
want all of their friends still left to be real pissed off, like, at least have the balls. At least have the balls.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Yzma said to Kronk, like, kill Emperor, and he can't. Please tell me
I'm
Cusco's
laughing
dead.
right now.
I mean,
Because we
seriously.
are using that as our example. You can tell we watched that movie way too much into adulthood. Like,
Cusco's dead. Please, I need to hear those words.
tell me Cusco's dead. I need to hear the words.
Do you
So-
need to hear those exact words? He's alive.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Back on track and focus.
Okay.
So, of course, Palmer was praised and surprise, immediately began planning to run for president. Plus, now he's feeling really good. So he follows up with not letting up. So Palmer has Hoover start planning for a massive raid after the new year. Which that's an interesting New Year's resolution. Exercise more, round up a ton of immigrants that may or may not be guilty, persecute them, then deport them, get more sleep, eat better. So January 20th, 1920. Palmer's
Is it the 20th? It's January 20th or January 2nd?
Oh, fuck off. January 2nd, 1920. Oh!
I just want to make sure you get your date right, okay?
I know you do, but I did not mean to say the F word yet again. We're trying to really refrain from it because our moms hate it. January 2nd, 1920, Palmer's agents hit 33 cities across the country. They go on a real arrest bender, seizing nearly 5,000 people for deportation.
P.S.
Yeah, many of whom were actually American citizens
What the hell?
and or didn't belong to any of the target groups.
I'm sorry. It's not funny, but
It's not funny, but it is kind of
Are
funny. Like, how can you make that colossal
oh,
fuck up? But
Jesus.
But
Sorry.
here we are. Now, even though this was Palmer's operation, all legal and logistical questions went first to J. Edna. I've got to stop calling you that. Went to Hoover. So we call these the Palmer raids.
Edna mode.
I'm not even going to get into all the rumors. That's why I'm calling him J. Edna. You can look that up on your own, or listeners. We call these the Palmer raids, but they're more like the Hoover raids, but whatever. High man on the totem pole takes the heat when this goes wrong, which inevitably
It
did.
Of course
Because
it did.
thousands were detained in basically makeshift concentration camps without a warrant. And God knows Americans won't stand for shit without a warrant. Like, we're all good with it if you've got a warrant. But it may be you one day, and you better show me a warrant.
If you
We're
want
gonna get up
to
in arms if we find out about it, you know?
enter my car, you want to search me, then get a fucking warrant.
It reminds me of Lucille Bluth in Arrested Development. It's warm there, rain tree, brook feather, get a warrant. So immigrant communities understandably were terrified, and the conditions of detainment were absolutely horrendous. And the anarchist groups took this as incontrovertible proof that the U.S. government were at war with them. You know, why find the actual people responsible for the bombings? That's hard,
right.
and it takes
Yeah.
actual police work. It's just easier to target huge groups of people you don't like for whatever reason. Or
I mean, it's kind of like in the Hunger Games. Why do we have the Hunger Games, as President Snow says? Why not just round up 24 random people and execute them right then and there?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it is basically fundamentally the same, but
Yeah.
less cinematic.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not fun because it's real life.
Yeah.
So, like, we're we're seriously, now that I'm looking at all this and the things we said, we're talking ourselves onto some lists in this episode, Bethany. So that's fun.
Well, Jessica, I'm pretty sure we were already on some, so
Oh,
I'm
well,
not worried.
yeah. I am, but that's you not be worried about it. One of us has to not worry. And they weren't the only people to think, these immigrants, that Palmer had seriously overstepped his bounds. When evidence started leaking about how thin the cases were against most of these people, most had no connection with any group that threatened the country, and spaghetti-o, church, labor, business groups, and even his own Department of Justice really began to question Palmer's tactics, as none of this had coughed up the May or June bombers or any future plots, because again, he didn't really look too hard or do any serious legwork. He had essentially repressed a political party, driven them to an underground movement, and now they were dangerous when the majority was not dangerous to begin with. Palmer targeted groups of people he didn't like, rounded them up without a court proceeding, I will once again remind everyone, and didn't even know if they were a threat and had made no plans to assess that threat. And the American people really began to ask themselves, what kind of country do we want to be? So 2,000 of the deportation orders were nullified. Backlash was mounting against Palmer. And he is understandably frustrated as people demanded decisive action. However, he chose the wrong decisive action.
Of course he did.
Of course. A group of lawyers issued a report accusing the AG of taking actions that threatened American freedoms, and he was summoned before Congress to defend his actions. Either way, his political career was now dead in the water. And rightly so.
Good. I mean,
right?
Somebody had to put him down.
Somebody had to put him down. Unfortunately, that takes us to September 16th, 1920. Now, it was a particularly good day for the old markets, and everyone was thrilled after a rather up and down summer. So a few minutes before noon, a postal worker discovers a bunch of flyers shoved in a mailbox a little way away from JP Morgan Chase Banking Center. And they weren't good. Basically, they stated, we won't tolerate these actions any longer, free the political prisoner, or it's going to be death for all of you. Sincerely, American anarchist fighters. I added the sincerely. Because what's coming is not going to be funny at all. So,
okay, I was wondering, I was like, did they really say sincerely?
No, they didn't.
Yours truly,
they
the
didn't.
American.
They didn't, but what's coming isn't funny, so I wanted us to have one last laugh.
Okay. All right.
Whew, so let's get through this.
I'm going to grab my beer. All right, I'm ready.
All right, lock and load, sister. So here we go. Few minutes after our postal worker reads this, boom, there is a violent explosion that rips through the financial district. The explosion was so powerful that skyscrapers 3 blocks north trembled in the impact of the explosions. Think about that. I mean, my God. Fire burned its way through the lunch crowd in the street, and it was devastation. Everyone around the blast, of course, panics as well, runs into the streets. People leaving the trading floor could still see the explosive mushroom cloud basically above Wall Street. We're talking hundreds of pounds of dynamite packed into a horse cart. When it went up, it just tore people near it in half. Mangled bodies were everywhere among the debris, blood everywhere. I mean, really awful stuff. Throughout the the district, they found window weights, tiny pieces of metal that had been packed into the bomb. Many people received internal injuries as the weights penetrated the body and internal organs. That's why we had so many people injured within the blast itself. I mean, like, truly horrific stuff. People were absolutely shocked. Most of the dead, of course, were under 30, and as usually the case with terrorism, just people working for a living. This didn't,
people like you and me.
Exactly. This didn't target any of those responsible for policy making or anybody that was considered super important. It was just a normal, everyday folks that these groups were claiming to be fighting for, as is usually the case with these sort of attacks. So the stock exchanges suspended business for the day, but industry leaders... Just a day. Industry leaders moved to open the New York exchanges the very next day. So, how thorough of an investigation could that have possibly been? Crews had it cleaned up best they could overnight. Business, as usual, all defiance and strength.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Sad as that is, you're exactly right. But the next day, it was pandemonium as all the looky-loos crowded into the district. Still, I do have to say, people at noon the next day met to pay tribute around Washington statue, not very far from the site of the bombing. Now, Palmer lost no time. Not honoring the victims, no.
Well, of course not.
No, pointing out he might have prevented this if Congress hadn't taken his budget and the raids backlash. What an asshole. He called for a new...
There went my eyeball.
Exactly. He called for a new deportation campaign like he's a frickin' Viking or some shit, ready to go raiding, basically, and promised to ram a peacetime sedition act through Congress. But the nation was torn. Be aggressive or maybe...
Be aggressive.
Maybe use caution, meaning violence with violence. And here's a fucking idea. Get the people responsible. Bring them to justice. Make that your target. I don't know. Catch the person responsible. Try them in a court of law. Is that too crazy?
Yes, Jessica, that is asking too much. It's just too much work. Let's try to find a needle in a haystack.
Too much work and too much sense. But here is the interesting part. They never did find the person who set off the bomb.
Of course not.
Galliani's followers were the main suspects, but he and most of his most ardent followers were nowhere to be found, either stateside or in Italy, interestingly enough. Hoover secretly sent agents to Russia to attempt to prove it was Lenin's communists who were behind the attack. That was also a dead end. After 3 years, no one had anything to show for it but false arrests. Best guess might have been a man by the name of Mario Buda in the circle of Galliani, of course. The bombings being a protest against the arresting and deporting of Italian radicals as a whole. He disappears from the U.S., shows up in Italy. People were sent to speak with him, but he never admitted a damn thing. So, honestly, who knows? So, how's that for some justice?
What did you always teach me, Jessica? Deny, deny, deny.
I didn't teach you that, Bethany. I learned that from Bill Clinton. Same thing as smile and thumbs up like the 93. Smile, thumbs up like the 93 inauguration, man. What do I say? I don't know. Just smile and thumbs up. So people just eventually forgot as everyone is kind of living it up in the roaring 20s. But this was to actually be the last bombing in the string of attacks, weirdly enough. The bombing seemed to have almost quietly settled, at least for a while, the argument between votes or violence. And votes seem to have won out for a time. By 1924, Palmer was no longer a political force, but the raids had scared the hell out of everyone. At very least, the Communist Party goes underground, and the anarchist movements don't take hold again for some time. Or, I mean, you can quite frankly say that they never again, and still to this day, don't have a prominent part in political culture. But J. Edgar Hoover successfully distanced himself from the Palmer raids, claiming Palmer was the only one making the decisions.
Oh, wow.
He became the director of the Bureau of Investigations in 1924. Hoover never gave up on the belief that the Red Scare was a real thing, as we all know, and the rest, as they say, is history, another story for another day. Now, the last active investigation into the Wall Street bombing was in 1944, and the case remains unsolved. Now, normally, guys, I would tell you, kind of what it is we're supposed to maybe take away from all this, but I believe it's so painfully obvious. I won't go into all of it. Instead, I'll leave it open-ended, like the case itself, and ask a question. How do we address security threats, both foreign and domestic, without punishing innocent people? I think it's a very clear answer, but one that requires diligence and conviction and integrity. So please, guys, be cool to each other today. Be kind. You don't have to agree. You're more alike than you are different. Stop backing each other into corners. And that draws our story to a very completely unsatisfying close for today. So put a pin in it. What do you think, Beth Ann?
I mean, as Professor Moody says, constant vigilance.
Pretty much.
I mean,
yes
damn,
and no. There's a lot of sides to argue in this. Both sides
I feel
are
like
false.
seriously incomplete right now. Like, there was nobody that was actually discovered to be behind any of the bombings. We can only speculate. We can only guess. And honestly, as I'm reading this, it makes me wonder if, maybe Hoover wasn't behind it. Or, you know what I mean? Like, he maybe decided,
Bethany,
hey,
we're
let me
getting
just
into
throw
the
these there.
realms. I have to stop you. We're getting into the realms of conspiracy and not into the realm of history. And we're not a conspiracy podcast.
I'm not saying that I just get this weird feeling that, like, Hoover's like, oh, it was all Palmer, and I've done my investigations. I'm now lead investigator, and we're coming up empty-handed. And it sounds
J. Edgar Hoover.
It just sounds fishy.
27 of his own podcasts, Bethany.
Sorry.
He has his hand in more pies. This will not be the first or last time J. Edgar Hoover's name is going to come up within our podcast. But awesome. You are not far off of the truth there.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's a first.
He's a very interesting figure. No, there's a lot that can be said, and he'll come up again. I promise. I already have some things on the board, which he will very much come up again. We're going a little bit long today, guys. Normally we would do our counterculture, but I think we're going to have to skip it. We're getting into the territory. We got to cut it off. We had too much fun. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap it up. Really quickly, go follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Body Count Pod. It is Body Count Pod on Facebook, and then go to www.bodycounthistorypod.com for all of our episodes there. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere that you normally listen to podcasts. I can be found at Jessica B. Manor, Manor, on Twitter and Instagram. Where do people find you, Bethany?
You can find me on Instagram at BethanyRN24. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Bethany Skelton 5. That is the number 5.
You gonna plug Facebook or nobody cares?
I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Bethany Rose Skelton. You can do that
But
too.
nobody cares.
I do more funny shit on Twitter, so
Exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys that is where you can best connect with us. Feel free to DM us. Go to the website, send me an email. Any questions, concerns, any topics that you would love to hear. We're always into it, and we like to interact with all of our listeners. It's our favorite thing in the entire world. If you have any stories for us, we would love to hear them. I can't think of anything other than that. What about you, Bethany?
no.
No. Well, we're sorry
No.
we went a little longer than usual today, guys, but we seem to be having a whole lot more fun than usual. So we're going to, which it happens from time to time, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up today. We will be back at you next week. Monday. Again, remember Monday it's going to be mamas and the papas. It's going to be our new drop day. That just worked a whole lot better for us, guys. If you have any questions, concerns, again, please email us at the website. Hit us up on social media.
Said that, Jessica.
I know,
God,
but I feel like people always like come across and they're like, "Oh, you're really hard." No, I'm not really hard to get a hold of. I live on Twitter. So I guess we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.